Hello to all who watch this video. I'm Bunmei. Today we have a theory of Izuku, so get your popcorn ready. This is about to begin.
What if Izuku was born without Quirk and had the power of Tailong? Complete theory, Izuku X Katsumi. On a peaceful morning in Mizurufu City, the Yagi family was preparing for a special day. Inko and Toshinori Yagi were excited to finally discover their youngest son's quirks, while their eldest daughter, Izumi, had already manifested an evolution of her mother's quirk from an early age. Izuku, a cheerful and curious child, was running around the house with his sister, anxious about what awaited them. Izumi, hurry up, Izuku. I don't want to be late for the hospital. Izuku, I'm coming. I'm excited to see what quirk I have. Despite his excitement, Izuku felt a knot in his stomach. What if he didn't have a quirk like everyone else? In the car, on the way to the hospital, Inko hugged Izuku tenderly, trying to comfort him. Inko, don't worry, my little one. I'm sure you have a unique quirk waiting for you. Although they tried to cheer him up, the absence of a quirk affected Izuku deeply. He felt useless and underappreciated compared to his sister, who received praise for her innate talent. For her older sister by a year, Izumi Yagi was the pride of the family. From an early age, she had demonstrated an extraordinary control over her telekinesis, handling objects with a mastery that left everyone who knew her speechless. But then came that fateful day, the day he learned that no one really loved him. Toshinori, with a worried expression, was looking out the window, lost in thought. Toshinori, thinking to himself, I hope Izuku has a gift. I don't know what we would do if he turns out to be quirkless. They finally arrived at the hospital, where a doctor met them and took them to an examination room. Doctor, okay, let's see what we have here. Who's next on the list? Inko, it's our son, Izuku. The doctor began to examine Izuku, as the tension in the room increased. Doctor, well, it looks like there are no signs of a quirk manifesting at this time. Inko, alarmed, what does that mean? Toshinori, trying to remain calm, does it mean that Izuku is quirkless? The doctor nodded solemnly, and a heavy silence fell over the room. Back home, Izuku was overwhelmed by the news. He wondered what it meant for his future and how it would affect his relationship with his family. For he saw the annoyed look on his sister's face, as well as how his mother had a sad expression and his father didn't even give him a look. Izuku, muttering to himself, I have to find a way to prove that even with my condition, I can be a hero. As the days passed, the rift between Izuku and Izumi became more apparent. While Izumi was praised and admired, Izuku was left out. His mother would sometimes worry as Izuku would come in beaten and she would treat his injuries. One of those days Izuku came home from school with his sister. Izuku tried to enter the house first, but was pushed by his sister who was looking at him with an evil smile. Izumi, mockingly, do you think you're a big deal and try to enter before me? Remember your position, damn quirkless? You're just the disappointment of our family. Izuku, trying not to show his pain, as he had bruises and his sister knocking him to the ground bent his ankle. I don't care what you think, Izumi. I'm going to find a way to be a hero. Meanwhile, Izuku's parents were privately discussing how to handle the situation. Inko, we can't just ignore Izuku. He needs our support now more than ever. Toshinori, I know, honey. But we must also be realistic about his prospects. As Izuku faced the reality of being quirkless, he clung to the determination to prove himself in a world full of heroes and powerful quirks. His journey was just beginning, but he was determined to find his place in the world, even if it meant defying the expectations of his family and the world at large. Izuku Yagi's life was a constant balance between the desire to prove himself and the stresses at home. Although he lacked a quirk, he strived to remain strong and athletic, devoting his time to physical training. At school, he shared the same grade as his older sister, Izumi, which only exacerbated tensions between them. Izumi, full of disdain for her younger brother, found pleasure in belittling him and making him feel his inferiority. Izumi, with contempt, how is it possible that we are in the same grade? You should be in a lower one, considering your lack of quirk. Izuku, trying to remain calm, it's not my fault that we're in the same grade. Besides, there's more to life than just quirks. Despite his sister's hostility, Izuku found comfort in his friendship with Katsumi Bakugo. A brave and determined girl who defended him from the abuse of his classmates. Katsumi, with determination, leave him alone, Izumi. You have no right to treat him like that just because he doesn't have a quirk. Izumi, frowning, so what, you're going to fight for him, Katsumi. You're wasting your time with a good-for-nothing like him. Meanwhile, at home, tensions continued to rise. Inko was struggling to keep the peace between her husband and eldest daughter, while her bond with Izuku was growing weaker and weaker. For neither Toshinori nor her eldest daughter disliked her defending the useless one in the family. And there were always arguments over the same thing. Inko herself distanced herself from her son to avoid further conflict, but her heart ached for she knew she was doing wrong to leave her son alone for something he did not decide. Inko, sadly, Toshinori, we can't keep ignoring Izuku. He is our son and he needs our support. Toshinori, frowning, Inko, I know it's difficult, but we must be realistic about Izuku's chances in this world. Despite the difficulties at home and at school, Izuku clung to the determination to find his place in the world. He knew that his friendship with Katsumi and his mother's love were his anchors in a sea of uncertainty and challenges. However, he also knew that the road to his destiny would be filled with obstacles and adversity that he would have to face with courage and determination. The situation was becoming more complicated than Izuku could have imagined. While he was enjoying a quiet moment on the school rooftop, oblivious to the dark plans being hatched against him, his father and sister were plotting behind his back to eliminate him from their lives. Behind his wife's back, Toshinori was meticulously eliminating any trace linking him to Izuku as his son, setting the stage for what was to come. Toshinori was having a conversation with a corrupt hero, as he was about to hand over his own son to the mafia. Toshinori, in a low voice, I need you to do something for me. I need someone to disappear. Corrupt hero, with interest, anyone in particular? And how much are you willing to pay for it? Meanwhile, on the rooftop of the school, Izuku was sharing a special moment with Katsumi Bakugo, the girl who had long stolen his heart. Their conversations were a ray of light amidst the darkness that surrounded him. Katsumi, with a smile, I love spending time with you, Izuku. You're different from the other kids at school. Even with my haughty and moody attitude you're still with me. Izuku, shyly, thank you, Katsumi. I really appreciate your friendship. You're one of the people I appreciate the most. The atmosphere on the rooftop was charged with emotions as Izuku gathered the courage to confess his feelings for Katsumi. Izuku, with determination, I love you, Katsumi. The sudden confession left Katsumi speechless, not expecting such a declaration. Izuku continued, overflowing his pent-up feelings, ever since we were children, I always felt a special bond with you. When everyone turned their backs on me, you were there for me, giving me your unconditional support. You are beautiful, really beautiful, but that's not the only thing I love about you. I love not only your outer beauty, but also your inner strength and compassion. Your attitude, even though it is a little aggressive, I know you do it to show the world that even though you are a woman you are strong and that deep down you care about everything, and that is why you will be a great heroine. I consider myself useless, but I will do my best to become a hero and stand by your side. Even if I can't do it, I will find a way to be close to you. Tears escaped Izuku's eyes as he spoke, fearing Katsumi's rejection. Izuku, with determination, I know I'm useless. But I'll try twice as hard, no, 5 times as hard, so that you won't feel ashamed to be with me. Katsumi, seeing the tears in Izuku's eyes, understood that he thought she did not reciprocate his feelings. What Izuku didn't know was that Katsumi was also deeply in love with him. She admired his gentleness and his willingness to never give up, qualities that had captivated her over the years. With a purposeful movement, Katsumi gently grabbed Izuku's face and turned him to look directly at her. Katsumi, in a soft but firm voice, I love you too. Without wasting any more time, Katsumi moved closer and kissed him, sealing their love with a passionate gesture. Katsumi, with a smile, and I will always love you. Katsumi's words made tears well up in Izuku's eyes, who hugged her tightly, feeling a mixture of relief and happiness. Thank you Katsumi-chan, thank you for also loving me. After a while Izuku lay on Katsumi's lap, who was her request herself, as she tenderly stroked his hair, both wrapped in a warm embrace. Izuku at that moment was super red. Katsumi, chuckling, I love seeing you like this, Izuku. You're adorable when you're shy. That day marked a special moment in both of their lives, a moment of connection and shared love that would remain in their hearts forever. Little did they know, however, that it would be several years before they would meet again, never imagining the challenges and adventures that awaited them in the future. The atmosphere at Urudara High School was filled with murmurs and surprised looks when Katsumi Bakugo, one of the most popular and admired girls in the school, appeared holding hands with Izuku Yagi, who had always been outcast and looked down upon for lacking a gift. Curious eyes and expressions of disbelief fell on the couple as they walked down the halls. Katsumi noticed the disapproving glances and cast a defiant look at those who dared to look down on her boyfriend. They knew his temper could be imposing and preferred not to confront her. Upon entering the classroom, they were met by Izumi Yagi, Izuku's older sister by only 1 year, who greeted them with folded arms and a disapproving expression. Izumi, frowning, are you really dating the guy without Quirk? Don't you think about the consequences? You could damage your reputation and your future. Besides, what if you have children and they're born without a gift? It would be too much of a burden. Izumi's remark affected Izuku deeply, and he was about to let go of Katsumi's hand. However, she tightened her grip tightly and looked at her former friend with determination. Katsumi, with a look of contempt at her former friend, she said, "You are cruel, Izumi. I love Izuku and I don't care what others think. If we have children and they are born without a quirk, we will love and support them unconditionally. Something you and your family don't seem to understand." Izumi, feeling a pinch of remorse, "I'm sorry, but I only care about you, Katsumi. I don't want to see you hurt. Izuku will only bring trouble into your life." Katsumi, not softening her expression, "I understand, Izumi, but you need to understand that Izuku and I are in this together. And we will face any challenge together. I love him and that neither you nor your family will be able to avoid." The end of class was approaching and Katsumi was about to leave with Izuku, but a friend from her class rushed up to her with an urgent expression. "Friend, Katsumi, I need to talk to you, it's something important. It's in the living room, quick." Katsumi clicked her tongue, somewhat annoyed by the interruption, but nodded, trusting her friend. "Katsumi, okay, let's see what it's all about." She gave Izuku a fond glance before leaving for the classroom, unsuspecting that her entire class was hatching a plan to separate them. Izuku smiled back. "I'll wait for you here, honey." She watched as Katsumi and her friend walked away before noticing something on the floor. A wallet she didn't recognize. "Izuku, I guess it's her friend's, I'd better take it to her." Meanwhile, Katsumi felt uneasy, as if something was out of place. As she entered the classroom, she encountered a senior boy, one of the many she had rejected in the past. Katsumi crossed her arms, irritated. "What do you want, you idiot?" Her friend tapped her on the shoulder, and Katsumi turned, only to receive a sudden spray in the face. She felt disoriented and confused, not understanding what was happening. The boy gave an evil grin and approached Katsumi, who was about to fall over from the effect of the spray on her face. He grabbed her by the waist, taking advantage of her confused state. "Boy," in a soft voice but full of malice, "Katsumi, honey, can you see me? I'm all you need." As one of his other companions gave the signal, the boy began to discredit Izuku, sowing doubts in Katsumi's already confused mind. "Boy," whispering in Katsumi's ear, "do you really think that boy is enough for you? He has nothing to offer you. I can give you everything you deserve." Katsumi, dazed and confused, was not thinking clearly. The boy, now adopting an appearance similar to Izuku's, came closer and kissed her. Katsumi, unable to distinguish between reality and manipulation, eagerly reciprocated the kiss. Katsumi wrapped her arms around the boy's neck and deepened the kiss, letting herself be confused and deceived. But a sudden sound broke the spell, the sound of something falling to the ground. Izuku had arrived and witnessed the painful scene of seeing his newly found girlfriend making out with another. Tears welled up in Izuku's eyes, mingling with his sobs as he faced the betrayal. "Izuku," between sobs, "why did you cheat on me? I loved you. I hate you. I hate everyone." Those words brought Katsumi back to reality, processing what was happening. She had kissed another boy and her boyfriend Izuku saw the whole thing. Despair gripped her as she watched him run, walking away in tears. Katsumi screamed in fear, trying to stop him before it was too late. Katsumi, in an anguished voice, "Stop, Izuku, this isn't what it looks like." She glared angrily at the boy and, using her quirk, gave him a blast, which roughly pushed him away and slammed him into the wall, making her disapproval of his actions clear. She then turned her attention to her friend with a mixture of betrayal and anger. "Katsumi, seriously, and you, if I can't work things out with Izuku, I assure you that you will not go unpunished and I will make your days a constant pain." Meanwhile, Izuku ran through the halls, tears blurring his vision as he saw that the once empty hallway was now filled with students recording him and taunting him. Unknown boy, laughing, "Look how pathetic he looks." An unknown girl added more cruelty to the situation. Unknown girl, did you really think any girl would love you? You're just a quirk and no one would love someone like you. The hurtful comments kept raining down on an Izuku Yagi, who was deeply hurt by Katsumi's betrayal. When he finally tried to leave the school, something knocked him down, and when he looked up, he met his sister's cold eyes. "How many times have I told you, Izuku, someone like you will never be loved?" "Izuku," in a breathless voice, "why are you doing this? I thought we were family, that you loved me. Do I really mean nothing to you just because I don't have a gift?" Izumi nodded coldly. "Izumi, coldly, you're right. To me, you're nothing but a disappointment. Go away, Izuku. Go away and don't come back." She said it with a look that only reflected hatred towards her brother. Dejected by his own sister's betrayal, Izuku left, feeling completely alone and helpless. Katsumi left the room a few minutes later, her heart pounding with fury as she realized that it had all been a premeditated plan to hurt Izuku. As she walked through the door, she found a crowd of people holding their cell phones, leading her to the conclusion that they were all in on the cruel prank. Wasting no time, she ran towards the exit and ran into Izumi, who was waiting for her there. Katsumi, shouting, "You also had something to do with this cruel prank." Izumi didn't deny her involvement, keeping calm as she looked up at the sky. "Izumi, calmly, you are right. What I did was what was necessary. This way, Izuku won't have false hopes about what awaits him." It was then that Katsumi was filled with horror, hearing Izumi's confession. Her own sister had been involved in a plan to get rid of Izuku. For Toshinori and Izumi had planned to get rid of Izuku, selling him to a mafia so that he would disappear. Katsumi fell disconsolately to the ground, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. She blamed herself for the carelessness that had led Izuku into this situation, knowing that his last image Izuku would have of her would be of her kissing someone else and believing that she had betrayed him. When Izumi tried to comfort her, Katsumi reacted with hostility, slapping her hand. "Katsumi, teary-eyed and full of anger, don't touch me. You're a bitch. You and everyone, you've taken away the boy I love the most." Her once gentle gaze now radiated a hostility never seen before. Katsumi, screaming from the sheer anger she felt, "I hate you. I hate this school, I hate the whole world for hurting the gentlest boy in the world." Katsumi stood up with determination, with a new goal in mind. Katsumi spoke to Izumi, "Listen to me, Yagi. I will become a heroine, but it won't be to save people. My purpose will be to find Izuku and get him out of this cursed country." Izumi stood silently, watching her childhood friend whom she once considered as a sister while showing great hatred towards her and everyone. She wouldn't admit it, but she felt a mixture of sadness and remorse. He knew that he had lost his friendship with Katsumi and that his actions had no way back. She wondered if her brother really deserved everything that had happened, since his only mistake was being born without Quirk. What if she had been the one without Quirk? Maybe she would have suffered too. Those dark thoughts made her shudder. Izuku had been running through the streets for several hours, her footsteps echoing in the night as tears continued to roll down her cheeks. Each tear was like an echo of his pain, a constant reminder of the betrayal he had just witnessed. In his mind, images of the passionate kiss between his recent girlfriend and that stranger played over and over again, like an incessant torment. It was all a trap, it was all a bloody hoax, he screamed inside, the frustration palpable in every word. He felt the weight of the world settle on his shoulders, crushing him with the weight of deceit and betrayal. But the pain was not limited only to that recent betrayal. He remembered every sneer, every look of contempt from his family. Toshinori Yagi, his father, Inko Yagi, his mother who increasingly distanced herself from him, and even his older sister, Izumi Yagi, all seemed to have turned their backs on him at some point due to his lack of quirk. The difference with his sister, who had been born with the power of telekinesis, seemed to have marked his destiny from the beginning. The one person he trusted completely, Katsumi Bakugo, had also failed him. He had trusted her, had shared his innermost feelings, only to discover that she was also part of the charade. Heartbroken and with no one to lean on, Izuku kept running, leaving his home and family behind. His sister's hate-filled gaze, advice to flee and not return, echoed in his mind like a grim warning. Without a clear destination, he let himself be carried away by the impulse, running aimlessly through the dark streets of the city, each step taking him further away from his old life and towards an uncertain future. From the shadows, a group of Kai Chisaki's Yakuza stealthily watched Izuku. They had been hired by a corrupt hero to make the young man disappear, but the gang's leader, Kai Chisaki, also known as Overhaul, had other plans in mind. After investigating, he discovered that Izuku's father wished to get rid of the dishonor his son represented. A sick smile spread across Kai Chisaki's face as he imagined the possibilities Izuku's body could offer for his experiments. He knew that the young man would surely have inherited some of the power of his father, the strongest hero, All Might, the number one. This knowledge only increased his desire to get his hands on Izuku. As Izuku fell limp to the ground, the group of the 8 Precepts of Death prepared to attack and kidnap him. Among them, a large-sized man with metal-covered fists stepped forward ahead of them all. "This brat looks weaker than we expected," the muscular man by the name of Rikiya Katsukane, with a look of contempt in his eyes. "It'll be quick work." But before the group of villain approached to be acts of presence, Izuku stood up with a determination that surprised everyone present. His fists clenched tightly as he looked at Kai Chisaki. "I will not give up, I will never give up," he shouted furiously to the sky, his voice echoing in the dark alley. "I will be a hero." Izuku's words sparked an uneasy murmur among the Yakuza members. Kai Chisaki frowned, watching the young man with interest mixed with disdain. "A hero, eh?" he said mockingly. He began to approach the young Izuku with a slow, menacing pace. "It seems this boy has more courage than we thought. But unfortunately for you, your fate is already sealed." Izuku held Kai Chisaki's gaze with determination, not backing down from his intimidating presence. "Come out and stop hiding," his voice was directed for those who were hiding. As of today, Izuku he vowed to himself that he would never allow himself to be trampled without a fight first. Adopting a fighting stance that he had imitated from a Chinese hero, Izuku fearlessly shouted at them, "I will fight you and I will win. Even if not today, not tomorrow, I know I will defeat you someday." Izuku's words echoed in the alley, defying the darkness and danger around him. His determination was like a blazing fire lighting up the night, announcing his firm resolve to become a hero and prove that a Quirkless was not trash in this society. Izuku knew what he was getting into. He was wounded and dizzy, the quirks of his opponents complemented each other, and the worst part was that the leader, Kai Chisaki, had not even moved a single muscle as he watched him with derision. "Is that all, hero?" said Kai Chisaki with contempt. "I thought you put up more of a fight." Shit, said Izuku to himself, aware of the gravity of the situation. He had managed to discover some of his opponent's gifts, but the most annoying one was the one that made him lose his balance, Didoro Sadaki. The other opponent, Rikiya, was the most muscular and the one who had seriously injured him. Izuku nimbly dodged the blows as best he could, but each impact he received shattered his body and weakened him, as if his vitality was leaking out of him. He soon discovered that Rikiya's gift was vitality theft. After a while, his body could take no more. Izuku lay on the ground as Kai Chisaki mocked him and stomped on his head. "Ha ha ha, you're pathetic," the villain sneered. "That's why everyone turned their backs on you, that's why your family sold you out to us, and that's why your girlfriend left you." Izuku tried to respond, but the villain wouldn't let him. With a stomp so hard that it knocked him out, he put an end to the young hero's resistance. Meanwhile, from the shadows, a barely audible whisper broke the silence of the alley. "What are we doing, boss?" one of Kai Chisaki's henchmen asked nervously. "This kid isn't just any kid, he's All Might's son. Are we sure we want to mess with him?" Kai Chisaki stopped his sneer for a moment, his expression hardening at the mention of the number one hero's name. "We stand against all heroes," he replied coolly. "Even the children of the most powerful are no exception. This is our chance to send a message: no one is safe from the 8 precepts of death." Then he put on a smile. Plus it was the father himself who sold his son. That statement surprised everyone, for only Chisaki knew that. Meanwhile, Izuku struggled to regain consciousness, his mind buzzing with the mixture of physical and emotional pain. He knew he had been defeated, but his determination still burned within him. In his subconscious, something strange was happening. Izuku saw mysterious silhouettes, but what was most impressive was the grace with which they moved, as if they belonged to another world. They performed blows as fluid as water, agile as the wind and devastating as the storm. Although Izuku could not physically move, his prodigious mind was completely focused on memorizing every move. He knew that, even if he didn't have a quirk, his mind had exceptional potential and he was determined to make the most of it. Among all the silhouettes, one in particular caught his attention. This figure possessed a perfect combination of martial arts movements, agile, strong, fast and precise. Izuku felt a strange connection with that silhouette, as if he was destined to meet him. "Who are you?" Izuku asked in his mind, watching the figure with fascination. But before he received an answer, his attention was suddenly diverted to a darker corner of his mind, where he spotted 7 figures, each pointing a finger at him. A shiver ran through his body at the terrifying sight of those shadows. "What do they want from me?" he whispered, feeling a knot in his stomach. He decided to put aside that disturbing encounter and focused on the movements of the silhouettes that kept performing martial arts techniques. As time passed, Izuku began to feel strange. By his perception, 5 years had passed, and the only reason he was still sane was his obsession with studying the movements of the figures. Finally, he noticed a change. One of the 7 shadows in the dark corner had moved, and from the figure, he'd bet it was a woman. "What are you doing here?" Izuku asked cautiously, watching the female shadow. Deciding to put his thoughts aside, Izuku began to practice everything he had memorized, taking full advantage of the unique opportunity his subconscious mind was giving him. Izuku began to lose his sanity, since, if his calculations did not fail, he could swear that 40 years had passed in that strange world of his mind, but that would be impossible. He questioned himself again and again, feeling how confusion and bewilderment took over his thoughts. "How is it possible that so much time has passed in my mind?" he muttered in disbelief, feeling the overwhelming weight of the situation. The other thing that had changed was that the silhouettes performing his martial arts techniques were disappearing as he imitated them to perfection. Every gesture, every movement, every blow was indelibly engraved in his memory, as if his mind was absorbing the very essence of those skills. "What's going on here?" he asked himself over and over again, watching in bewilderment as the figures faded away one by one, as if they were fleeting flashes in the darkness of his mind. The first to disappear was the snake-like silhouette, which used agile and fluid movements, as if it were dancing in the air. Then followed the silhouette of a crocodile and an ox, who in addition to having a complex style, also employed weapons with dexterity and precision. Unfortunately, Izuku lacked weapons, so he could not practice with them, but he did memorize all their postures and movements, as if he was storing a vast arsenal of knowledge in his mind. And so, little by little, the figures disappeared, leaving a void in the space they had occupied, but also leaving an indelible mark in Izuku's mind, who felt that each technique learned brought him one step closer to his goal of becoming a true hero, even if he didn't have a quirk. "Will it be necessary to master these skills to be a hero, even if I don't have a quirk?" Izuku asked himself, with determination in his voice, feeling the passion and will to go forward ignite within him like a burning flame. The other thing he noticed was that, from the corner of his mind, the 7 figures were now only 1, for the others had turned around and as they walked away they faded into the darkness. The silhouette of the last shadow, as he had predicted, was of a woman. Although she had come within about 5 meters, her face remained a mystery, hidden in the shadows that shrouded her figure. "Who are you?" Izuku asked, feeling a shiver of excitement run down his spine as he anticipated the answer, fervently wishing to discover the mystery behind that enigmatic and powerful figure. A smile of pure anticipation formed on his face, aware that this figure was important and that he had established an even more special connection than with the leopard silhouette. And as he waited for the answer, he felt time stop in that place between reality and dream, leaving him suspended in an eternal moment of possibility and hope. After another year, Izuku had devoted all his efforts and dedication to perfecting the leopard's techniques. Each movement, each blow, had been polished to excellence, and although he had mastered them with mastery, a surprise awaited on the horizon. The spirit of the leopard did not disappear as the other silhouettes had done. Izuku found himself face to face with a majestic feline figure, with grayish fur and orange eyes that glowed with intensity. Although his presence could have instilled fear in anyone, the friendly smile on the spirit's face filled him with warmth and confidence. Tailong. It is a pleasure to meet you, my successor. I am Tailong, the leopard spirit introduced himself, his voice echoing in Izuku's mind with a depth that reflected centuries of wisdom. Izuku was surprised by the spirit's kindness and nodded with respect, feeling a special connection with him that he could not explain in words. Thank you, Tailong. It is an honor to be considered your successor, Izuku replied, humility in his voice. Tailong nodded approvingly and began to tell his story, revealing the details of his past life and how he had come to become a protective spirit of ancestral techniques. He spoke of his repentance for the path of anger and violence he had once followed, and how he had found redemption through the teaching and guidance of his wisdom. For when he sought redemption he had two paths to choose from. The first was to reincarnate and do good for the world, or to seek a successor to carry on his legacy. Tailong thought about it and chose a successor, for he felt unworthy to have a second life and sought someone who would be worthy and show them all his techniques. And now that he had fulfilled his purpose, it was his time to leave, but first he wanted to try one thing. Tell me, Izuku, do you want a match? Proposed Tailong with a defiant smile. The bout began and both contenders gave their best. Tailong did not hold back and Izuku also showed his full potential. After a grueling hour, Izuku was tired and collapsed on the ground, feeling defeated. I'm sorry, I think I failed, Izuku mumbled sadly. Tailong stroked his hair tenderly and assured him. Be calm, son. Remember that I have more experience. Your path will be great. He crouched down to Izuku's level and passed on words of encouragement. Listen, son. No matter your background, what matters is what you are going to do in the future. Show everyone the legacy of Tailong, show what my son can do. Izuku, with tears in his eyes, hugged Tailong tightly. Thank you, Otosan. He exclaimed emotionally, recognizing in Tailong the father figure he had longed for, something Toshinori Yagi could never offer him. I will miss you, son, replied Tailong, as he vanished into particles that integrated into Izuku's body. The teenager, who for years had longed for someone's company only to lose it, was broken with grief. He began to cry and scream, venting sadness and anger at losing someone so important. A week had passed in Izuku's mind. He was still training because he didn't know what else to do. Izuku was overwhelmed with frustration, feeling a torrent of emotions consuming him from deep within. Ever since he was 4 years old and diagnosed with Quirk's absence, his life had been a constant struggle against rejection and hopelessness. And now, even with newfound abilities and powers, he was trapped in a state of helplessness that angered him more than ever. Damn it, why is this happening to me? Izuku shouted, letting the rage flow freely through his words. He turned his gaze to the only figure present, whose identity remained a mystery. The lack of response only fueled his fury. Answer who you are or get out, he exclaimed, his voice echoing with an intensity that reflected his frustration. But the figure remained silent, further provoking Izuku's anger. Without a second thought, he lunged towards her with impressive speed, ready to unleash all his resentment in one powerful blow. However, before he could connect the blow, he suddenly found himself stopped by an invisible wall that threw him backward with force. Although he performed somersaults in the air to cushion the impact, the blow to his pride was more devastating than any physical injury. Izuku screamed in frustration and directed his anger towards the figure that still remained unrevealed, even after nearly 2 hours of verbal sparring. Show yourself at once, no more games, he exclaimed, his voice trembling with the impotence he felt. But the figure remained motionless, immersed in the mystery that enveloped his presence. At the lack of response and the exhaustion of his own fury, Izuku finally fell to the ground, his tears mingling with the frustration and pain that consumed him. Please, somebody, help me. He sobbed, feeling that he no longer knew what else to do in this desperate situation. It's okay, my little Izuku-chan, a warm and familiar voice echoed in Izuku's ears, causing his eyes to widen in surprise. A gentle hand stroked his hair lovingly, and as he looked up, he was met by the comforting figure of a heroine he knew all too well, his grandmother, Nana Shimura. Well, it was her grandmother. Nana Shimura. Although she had lost her life, she had done her best to take care of her mother when she was still alive. But when she lost her life, the one who took over was her grandfather, who inherited her green hair. But now his grandmother, in an unexpected twist of fate, was in front of him, offering him comfort and support. Izuku's tears welled up and he went into his grandmother's arms. Izuku was crying like never before. Take it easy, my little Izu. I know you've been through a lot, but from today, I'll be here with you, even if it's only in your mind. I will never leave you alone, Nana murmured, conveying love and calm to her grieving grandson. Then, in a moment of intimate confession, Nana shared with Izuku the details of her death at the hands of the #1 villain, All for One, and how she had transferred the legacy of One for All to Toshinori Yagi before she passed away. But what surprised Izuku most was learning that a spark of that powerful quirk had been inherited by him, growing stronger over time, even though the previous possessors did not deem it worthy of being part of the main quirk line. Nana's expression turned into a grimace of annoyance as she remembered the decisions of the previous carriers. I told those jerks that I would give up being a part of One for All and would rather be with my family, or well, the only one I consider my family, she exclaimed in frustration. Izuku had tears, as his grandmother pointed him out to him. Izuku tried to hold back the tears as he was always considered replaceable or unnecessary, but his grandmother left everything behind for him. Thank you, mother. That answer left Nana Shimura surprised, but she understood why Izuku saw in her a mother figure. For her own mother did not fight hard enough for her son. With a tender gesture, Nana reached over and gave him a kiss on the forehead, before ruffling Izuku's hair with a comforting smile. From today, you will be Izuku Shimura, she announced, assuring him that he would carry her surname with pride and honor. Thanks to the reassurance and love his grandmother gave him, Izuku found an inner peace he had never experienced before. With a lighter heart and a clearer mind, he decided to embark on a journey of self-discovery through meditation. For days, he immersed himself in the world of contemplation and introspection, conducting prolonged meditation sessions in a lotus pose. With eyes closed and breathing calm, he immersed himself in a state of deep serenity, letting his thoughts flow freely as he explored the innermost recesses of his mind and heart. A full week passed in this meditative state. He could sense an awakening approaching, as if he were on the verge of discovering a hidden truth that would change his life forever. Each day, he dove deeper into the essence of his being, connecting with his own inner strength and purpose in the world. The hours faded away as he explored the depths of his soul, unearthing forgotten memories as he accessed the memories of his various teachers, especially Tailong. As the days passed, Izuku began to feel a sense of renewal and clarity. Every breath became deeper, every thought clearer, and every beat of his heart resonated with renewed strength and unwavering determination. Still in the lotus position, Izuku found solace and guidance in the comforting presence of his grandmother, who hovered in front of him with grace and serenity. In this alternate reality, Nana Shimura had been born with a high-level telekinetic power, allowing her to move objects with her mind and float in the air with ease. Mother, I'm about to wake up, Izuku announced, his voice echoing in the quiet space around them. Nana Shimura stopped hovering and approached her son, concern reflected in her kind eyes. Something is troubling you, isn't it, Izu-chan? She asked gently, placing a comforting hand on Izuku's shoulder. The latter nodded solemnly. You are correct, Izuku replied, his tone heavy with regret. Last I remember, I lost in a battle against villains, and I could hear that my family sold me out. Bitterness seeped into his words as he recalled the betrayal he had experienced. Nana enveloped Izuku in a warm embrace, conveying love and support to her son. With a comforting whisper, she reminded him that, despite the odds, he was strong and courageous, capable of overcoming any obstacle that stood in his way. Finally, with a last effort of will, Izuku's mental figure disappeared from his own mind, leaving room for a full awakening and a new understanding of his destiny. Izuku expected many things, but he did not expect to find himself chained in darkness. He felt the weight of the chains on every part of his body, hands, elbows, neck, chest, abdomen, legs, knees. He was completely immobilized. However, unlike the shy boy he once was, he had now transformed into a mature man, a master of martial arts with a serene and determined mind. With his eyes adjusting to the darkness, he spotted a little girl with a horn on her forehead, sleeping in a corner. He decided to speak softly so as not to frighten her. "Child, wake up," his voice rang out thicker and deeper than he expected, startling himself. Looking at her hand, he noticed the gray fur covering it, similar to that of his master Tailong. A sob caught his attention and he turned to the girl, who was huddled in the corner, visibly frightened. "Little girl, don't be frightened. I won't hurt you," he assured her sincerely, trying to calm her down. The girl, named Eri, was hyperventilating and about to scream, but Izuku's reassuring words helped her relax enough to listen to him. "My name is Izuku Shimura. I would tell you my age, but I've lost track of time. My family rejected me for being born without quirk, and someone I cherished left me for an idiot. My dream is to become a hero," he confessed bitterly. Eri, though nervous, decided to open up to him. "My name is Eri. I don't have parents because I killed them, and I'm bad. For that, I'm punished," she admitted regretfully, revealing a dark part of her past. Izuku listened intently as Eri revealed to him the horrible fate she had suffered at the hands of her captors, and how her innocence had been sacrificed on the altar of cruelty and unbridled ambition. Eri's confession puzzled Izuku, but before he could ask questions, she interrupted him with an unexpected statement. "You're not going to scare me anymore," she declared with determination, causing a sense of alarm in Izuku. "Tell me, Eri, what do you mean by that?" she asked earnestly, bracing herself for what could be a shocking revelation. And so, Izuku listened intently as Eri revealed the dark secret of his imprisonment, explaining how he had been subjected to experiments and transformed into a leopard since the first day he was there. "After that I reacted aggressively and they had to sedate me, and put me in chains because I was destroying everything in my path. I'm sorry Eri. I didn't mean to scare you. I am honest with you, all this time I have been unconscious and I have not been aware of my actions." The girl approached me and asked timidly, "Can I touch your tail?" Izuku said with a smile yes. But in his mind he was with a surprised face as now even a damn tail had grown out of it. The girl stroked the tail and hugged it. Izuku took the opportunity to make more conversation and learned about the cruelty that the girl suffered, because she was treated like a thing and they only experimented with her. Boom! An explosion sounded and the whole place shook. Izuku grabbed Eri with his tail to keep her from falling. Izuku, with his body transformed into that of a leopard, sharpened his sense of hearing and perceived the movements in the base where they were imprisoned, indicating the arrival of the heroes who were about to rescue Eri. When he heard footsteps approaching, his determination grew. Looking at Eri with determination, Izuku made an offer that would change their lives forever. "Eri, do you want me to be your father? I'll help you and I swear I'll make you the happiest girl in the world." Eri wanted to be wary, but at this point in her life it was a leap of faith and hope that things would work out. "Yes, I do. I want you to be my daddy, Mr. Leopard," she replied with a mixture of excitement and hope. With a bead of sweat from the given title, Izuku wasted no time. Using his strength, he untied the chains that held him prisoner and then with his tail grabbed Eri. With her on his back, ready for whatever came, for Izuku's goal was to get out without endangering Eri's life. "Listen to me Eri, hold on tight." The little girl nodded. What none of the villains or heroes expected was the spectacle they would witness. A large boulder emerged from the ground and soared skyward, shattering everything in its path until it reached the roof of the building. Minutes before, Kai Chisaki was opening the door, where he kept Eri and the other test subject, and when he entered the room, he was surprised that his failed experiment was conscious and not running amok. Without waiting any longer he pulled out his glove and touched the floor and sent several spikes of dirt. Izuku took a spinning leap and delivered kick after kick to all the spikes sent by Chisaki. When the spikes stopped, Izuku fell to the ground gracefully. Izuku gave the villain no rest. He stomped on the ground, breaking half of the structure and lifting half of the floor in a rectangular shape, and kicked it to the villain. Izuku, with his body transformed into that of a leopard, sharpened his sense of hearing and perceived the movements in the base where they were imprisoned, indicating the arrival of the heroes who were about to rescue Eri. When he heard footsteps approaching, his determination grew. Looking at Eri with determination, Izuku made an offer that would change their lives forever. "Eri, do you want me to be your father? I'll help you and I swear I'll make you the happiest girl in the world." Eri, though cautious, understood that at that point in her life, trusting someone was a risk worth taking. "Yes, I do. I want you to be my daddy, Mr. Leopard," she replied with a mixture of excitement and hope. With a bead of sweat from the given title, Izuku wasted no time. Using his strength, he untied the chains that held him prisoner and then released Eri. With her at his back, ready for whatever was to come, they headed for freedom. What none of the villains nor the heroes expected was the spectacle they would witness. A large boulder emerged from the ground and soared skyward, shattering everything in its path until it reached the roof of the building. Meanwhile, Kai Chisaki, upon opening the cell door and finding his two experiments, was shocked to see that the supposedly failed experiment was awake and conscious, a far cry from the madness he expected. Wasting no time, he unleashed his power and hurled several earthen spikes towards Izuku. With agility and dexterity, Izuku jumped and kicked each of the spikes, parrying the attack. However, as he stopped, he was rammed by a rectangular apartment thrown by Chisaki. Izuku countered with a powerful kick, sending the villain to the ground. "Okay, Eri, hold on tight," exclaimed Izuku, as the little girl responded with determination. "Yes, Daddy." With determination and strength, Izuku dug his hand into the ground, feeling the rough, cold texture beneath his claws. With a mighty pull, he extracted a large rock from the ground, lifting it with feather-like ease. With a silent roar, he hurled the rock into the air, wasting no time in delivering a kick imbued with chi, propelling it even higher into the air. In an instant of pure feline agility, it leapt gracefully and clung to the rock with its claws. Izuku, high in the sky above the rock, sharpened his eyesight and spotted some heroes in the area. With determination, he leaped in a direction where no one was around, nimbly moving from rooftop to avoid detection. However, a duo of heroines had spotted him and began to pursue him, aware that he was carrying the girl they were looking for. As he advanced, a green aura suddenly surrounded him, halting his steps. "Hello, Izumi." "Hello, Katsumi," Izuku greeted coldly, keeping his back to his pursuers. "How do you know who I am?" asked Izumi with surprise, recognizing her brother's voice. "Give the girl back and turn yourself in," his ex-girlfriend demanded with determination. "I won't. She's my daughter," Izuku replied firmly, clinging to the decision to protect Eri at all costs. The heroines planted themselves in front of him, one with a scowl of annoyance, that was Izumi, and the other with a serene look, but with a glimmer of hope, that was Katsumi. Izuku was about to attack them and knock them unconscious, but his plan was interrupted when Eri, peeking out from her position on Izuku's back, asked, "Daddy Izuku, is one of them my mommy?" Katsumi was about to say something, but the leopard carrying her suddenly disappeared from her sight, leaving her surprised and worried. "Izuku!" shouted Katsumi, instinctively, as she and Izumi dashed after the villain, determined to catch him. Izumi pulled out her phone and called for backup as they ran. "Hurry, Izumi, he's getting away from us," exclaimed Katsumi, urgency in her voice. Izuku moved with amazing dexterity, dodging every blow and every attack with pinpoint accuracy. Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he faced renowned heroes, each with unique skills and techniques. Mirko, Endeavor, Ryukyu. All were trying to stop him, but Izuku was determined to protect Eri at all costs. With nimble movements, he dodged Mirko's attacks, jumping and spinning in the air to avoid being hit. Then, with a quick movement of his hand, he deflected the fireball launched by Endeavor, feeling the scorching heat pass close to him. Then, he performed a somersault and jumped towards a wall to avoid being trampled by Ryukyu in his dragon form, also dodging the attempt to hit him with his tail. "Damn you, I've got the girl with me," shouted Izuku, his voice ringing with determination and fury as he continued to dodge the attacks of the heroes surrounding him. Every move was calculated, every step was strategic, but still, the fight was intense and challenging. The situation became even more tense when more heroes arrived on the scene and a helicopter began filming the fight. The battle intensified, but Izuku had no qualms about using his most lethal techniques to cut down his opponents. Within minutes, several heroes lay defeated at his feet. When Endeavor tried to attack him, Izuku appeared next to him in the blink of an eye, launching an accurate blow to his ribs and then another to his neck, leaving him paralyzed on the ground. With all the heroes detained, Izuku headed towards the helicopter and shouted, "Before you judge me, they tried to take my daughter from me." The image transmitted by the helicopter showed Eri hugging the leopard's tail, reinforcing his claim. With that said, Izuku decided to leave Japan, feeling that he no longer had a place in that country full of bad memories. Before he left, however, a green aura enveloped him and he saw his sister flying towards him, green rays emanating from her body. In his mind, his mother's voice echoed, "Be careful, son. She is the new bearer of one for all." Izumi stands between the villain and the girl with palpable determination. Her voice resonates with a tone that mixes bravery and concern as she confronts the villain whose identity is still unknown and who in her eyes is a threat to the little girl. "Stop, villain, and leave the girl," he declares firmly, his words laden with conviction and a touch of fear for the girl's safety. To Izumi's surprise, whose powers exerted great pressure on the humanoid leopard's body, it managed to move with some degree of ease, defying the power of one of the future heroines and the strongest of her generation. With precise and decisive movements, Izuku approached Katsumi and placed Eri in her arms gently. At that instant, Izuku and Katsumi's gazes met. "It's you, isn't it?" asks Katsumi, her voice trembling with hope clinging to her heart. Izuku, whose expression has changed since she last saw him, coldly denies. "The Izuku you knew, didn't he look like a leopard?" "So no, I'm not him," he replies calmly, though there is a trace of regret in his eyes. Then, he directs a loving look at his daughter. "Take care, little one, I'll be right back for you." Izuku ruffles her hair and gives her a smile that conveyed to the little girl that everything would be alright. The tension in the air reaches its peak as the battle erupts in all its fury. 80%, shouts Izumi, her voice echoing with defiance as she unleashes her power, lightning sparking with renewed ferocity. Still, the scales of combat remain in a continual balance. Izumi throws a powerful right, but Izuku, with surprising agility, dodges it with ease. In a calculated move, Izuku hits 3 key points on Izumi's body, leaving his left leg and hand numb. 100%, Izumi roars, her voice charged with fury and determination. He takes a nimble leap, taking advantage of his uninjured leg, and with a powerful blow catches his opponent with his healthy hand. The blow sent Izuku towards the concrete, embedding himself in it. But to everyone's surprise, Izuku emerged from the hole, his arm bruised and clearly dislocated. However, without complaining, he set it in place with his good hand. Wasting no time, he approached with ferocity. With a kick, he sent his sister into the air, and in a flash, he appeared above her. With his leg raised, he smashed it into Izumi's face, sending her to the ground with a thud against the concrete. Without pausing, he descended at high speed and, with his hand open in one palm, slammed it all over Izumi's back, causing a spinal injury that triggered a piercing scream. The sound echoed across the battlefield. Little flashes of the past flooded Izuku's mind, reminding him of days when happiness was a constant, when he and his sister Izumi were inseparable. But amidst the chaos of the present, he pushed those memories to the back of his mind, focusing his attention on his opponent. With determination, Izuku grabbed Izumi by the leg and lifted her up. He spun on himself with impressive speed and threw his sister through the air, watching her crash hard into a nearby cart, creating a deafening roar that echoed in the tension-laden air. As he approached Izumi, shock and amazement gripped everyone present, including Izumi's parents, as they watched what was happening on the television. The villain had made use of a quirk much like the heroine, but instead of attacking, he had gently placed Izumi on the ground, leaving everyone perplexed at his unexpected action. "Why don't you finish me off?" were Izumi's weak words, but the one who answered was not Izuku, but Katsumi, whose voice echoed with a tone of sympathy and as if the answer was obvious. "Silly, he's your brother. Despite everything you've done to him, I'm sure he can't forget the happy times you shared before you betrayed him by being born without Quirk. Izumi was about to call Katsumi crazy, but as she looked at the villain and saw the tears in his eyes, an overwhelming wave of guilt washed over her. As memories of her childhood flooded her mind, reminding her of the moments of complicity and love they had shared. A flood of beautiful memories flooded her mind and she could not hold back the tears. With slow, staggering steps, Izumi stood up. Izuku was still in place, and remained motionless, with a mixture of pain and determination in his gaze. With each step she took towards him, the weight of her guilt seemed to crush her, but it also drove her to seek redemption for her actions. She strokes his face tenderly, her fingers gently tracing the contours that were no longer fully human, but leopard-like in feature. "What have they done to you?" she asks him in a voice full of concern, unable to hide her pain at seeing her brother transformed into an unfamiliar, yet familiar figure. "He's like me," Eri confesses with a tone charged with sadness. Eri reveals that both she and Izuku were subjects for various experimentations, revealing the bond she shares with Izuku as a result of their past as experiments. Izumi can no longer contain herself and throws herself into her brother's embrace, letting the tears of regret and love flow freely. "Forgive me, Oturo," she pleads between sobs, her heart filled with remorse for not being there when she needed him most. "Izumi," murmurs Izuku in a soft voice, pulling away from the embrace and looking at her with an expression she doesn't quite manage to understand. "I forgive you, but..." Her voice falters as she searches for the right words. "I am not your brother, I am no longer Izuku Yagi. I am now Izuku Shimura, and this is Eri Shimura." With those words, Izuku bids farewell to his former identity in the family ties that once bound them together, leaving Izumi Yagi behind. Perhaps it is not a final goodbye, but rather a see you later. Izuku turns determined to go in search of his daughter, but stops short when he feels Katsumi's lips on his. He pulls away from the kiss in surprise and confusion, not understanding Katsumi's actions at that moment. "What do you think you're doing, Katsumi?" asks Izuku, his gaze reflecting a mixture of shock and annoyance, painfully remembering how the girl he loved had kissed someone else. "It was my fault," exclaimed Izumi with a lump in her throat, her words laden with regret and anguish. Tears threatened to overflow as she struggled to express the burden of guilt weighing on her. "She always loved you. It was my fault and everyone's fault. I wanted to see you suffer. You can hate everyone, but please don't hate her. Maybe I stopped you from being happy before, but I'm sure Katsumi will make you happy. She loves you with all her heart." Izuku slowly assimilated her sister's words, feeling the weight of truth in each of them. His eyes strayed to Katsumi, searching for any hint of doubt or insincerity, but he found only determination in her gaze, a determination that filled him with hope. "I'm no longer the same shy man you once loved," stated Izuku, his voice ringing with a mixture of emotion. He turned to Katsumi with a smoldering gaze, seeking some doubt from her. Katsumi's answer was direct and without hesitation. Replied Katsumi, with a sincerity that surprised everyone. Tears began to well up in Katsumi's eyes, unable to contain the surge of emotions that swept through her. "Believe me," she sobbed, struggling to find the right words to express her remorse. "I beat up all the assholes at my school. I didn't give a shit if I sent them to the hospital or if I got complaints. I would do it again, because of them I lost you. They drugged me and my judgment was impaired." Izuku approached Katsumi with a determined stride, his eyes shining with fierce determination and renewed confidence in the love they shared. "Even if I leave Japan, you will follow me," Izuku added, surprising everyone with his confession as the conversation was being broadcast. Katsumi responded with a smile full of love and hope. "Let's get out of this dump," she exclaimed, extending her hand towards Izuku with a clear and determined invitation. "You're still the blonde bombshell I loved," Izuku teased, sharing a complicit glance with her beloved before Izuku reached over and grabbed her waist and then gave her a passionate kiss that sealed their love forever. Izumi, exhausted, fell backwards to the ground. She looked up at the clouds and then at her brother and Katsumi with a smile on her face. "I want to be the maid of honor at your wedding," she announced with palpable excitement in her voice. "Izuku, I'll think about it," she replied with a comforting smile, promising to consider her sister's proposal. Next, Izuku manifested his power inherited from Nana Shimura. The quirk of advanced telekinesis, enveloping his daughter and his bride-to-be in a glowing green aura. In a flash of light, the three disappeared from the country, leaving behind the pain of the past to embrace a future filled with hope and love. End of story. I tell you that these 2 days there have been blackouts in my house, and it seems that this problem will be present for a few more days. Because of this I am behind in some stories. Remember that on Sundays I will be reading your comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Remember that if you are not subscribed you can help me grow on YouTube by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Finally, I have to inform that the Naruto theories I will put them on pause, or if I publish them they will be short stories.